So what did you guys like the most out of that little Nintendo Switch mini direct we got back a couple weeks ago? The announcement of all the 2K games like Borderlands and BioShock coming to the Switch? Or maybe your favorite part was all the stealth releases we got that day like Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Academy and a certain Sega Saturn launch title's remake. Thankfully, I've gotten the chance to cover both of those stealth releases. I've already reviewed Jedi Academy, so let's dive into that rail shooter that launched on the Sega Saturn. Here is my review of Panzer Dragoon Remake for the Nintendo Switch. Panzer Dragoon takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where humans fight over the technology of a long-lost civilization. You play as the member of a hunting party who witnesses two dragons, one black and one blue, fighting each other. When the rider of the blue dragon becomes wounded, it chooses you as its new master and you carry on his original mission, to prevent the black dragon from reactivating a dangerous ancient ruin. Now, the story of this game, and really the story of the series, is a bit confusing and not blatantly stated to you. You get some dialogue in-game, but not much related to the actual main plot, as most of the game's story is illustrated rather than told. Most of my understanding that I just explained to you did not come from the game itself, but came from research. When it comes to gameplay, Panzer Dragoon is an aerial on rails shooter, very similar to the gameplay style of the early Star Fox games. Across all of its stages, you'll be navigating automatically around 3D areas while moving around to avoid obstacles and firing off lasers to down enemies and bosses. Now, since this game has Remake in its title, it's very obviously a remake of the original Panzer Dragoon that launched for the Sega Saturn. Though I'd call this more of a remaster than a remake, as there's no real new content here outside of the upgraded visuals and new control schemes. In fact, there's even less content than the original game if you include the fact that they excluded all of the original game's cheat codes from this new remake. In the original, you could put in different codes in the main menu to unlock a level select, activate various cheats to help you in-game, and access a hidden prologue chapter. I've tried a lot of different things to unlock and use these cheat codes in the remake, from actually fiddling with the controller and trying to figure out the Switch control scheme's versions of all these codes to actually beating the game, and as far as I can tell, they're gone. This leaves us with the original 7-stage campaign that has you flying through 3D areas on the Blue Dragon. All 7 of these stages progress pretty much the same. You move around all of these 3D areas, avoiding obstacles as you go along and fighting enemies with your laser gun until you reach the end of the stage and have to challenge a boss to proceed to the next. As I said earlier, it's pretty much the same formula as the old Star Fox games for the Super Nintendo and N64. The big thing that sets it apart is the fact that combat can be done from all angles instead of just what's in front of you. A simple tap of the R or L triggers will change the direction you're facing, allowing you to look forward, backwards, and to the sides, firing in all of those directions as enemies will spawn from any and all of them. And once you get to the different types of attack you've got, the Star Fox feel is even more apparent. You've got a normal laser gun that can fire shots quickly at enemies, along with a laser charge that locks onto targets and can unleash homing lasers that attack all of them at once. And honestly, I know I'm comparing this with Star Fox a lot, but when I was playing through the game, it felt like I was playing a Star Fox game. I know I wasn't because of the environments and the dragon on the screen, but the formula, the controls, and just the overall feel of the game was so similar, I really just couldn't tell the difference. Not that that's a bad thing. It's a really fun system, especially once you get the hang of it, but it does have some issues. The camera angle is very often too close to the dragon, and it gets in the way of aiming towards enemies. It's also a very short experience. Even before I started playing, I figured this was actually both remakes of the first 2 games instead of just the first. That's because by the time I had beaten the game for the first time, I had only been playing the game for a little over an hour. You don't really unlock anything when you beat the game, so unless you really want to go through the game over and over again to improve your score, you're paying $25 for a little over 60 minutes of gameplay. And now let's get into presentation, which is the game's greatest asset. Visually, this game is beautiful, and it's definitely improved miles and miles ahead of what it was at the Sega Saturn's launch, which, for the time, also looked quite beautiful. All of the environments are very pretty and detailed, and performance is pretty much the same way. staying at a nice and smooth frame rate in both docked and handheld modes. And finally, let's get into battery life. On the original model, this game has a battery range of 2 hours and 49 minutes up to 3 hours and 54 minutes. On the Nintendo Switch Lite, it has a range of 3 hours and 16 minutes up to 4 hours and 58 minutes. And on the V2 or Redbox 2019 model, it has a range of 4 hours and 21 minutes up to 6 hours and 21 minutes. Now, in conclusion, Panzer Dragoon's remake is a beautiful recreation of the original Sega Saturn launch title. But on the downside, camera angle issues along with missing extra features and an incredibly short length versus the price make this remake something best bought on a sale. Reviews to Go rates Panzer Dragoon Remake for the Nintendo Switch a 6 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching and have a great day.